evening, movie buffs of the interwebs. I'm Alexa, the resident ooky spooky girly, and today we're diving into a niche area of films that I didn't consider myself an expert on until today. Usually if I'm watching a horror film, I tend to lean more towards the supernatural, demonic side of things. Question for y'all, and not to sound like a cliche, but what's your favorite scary movie? Let me know in the comments. I promise I'm not Ghostface in disguise. And welcome to the top 5 terrifying UFO horror movies based on real events. Number 5, Fire in the Sky. Based on the book The Walton Experience by Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky is set in 1975 and follows a logger named, Travis Walton, played by D.B. Sweeney, from Arizona, who allegedly had a flying saucer experience that caused him to abruptly vanish for 5 days. His co-workers experienced mockery and disdain while being falsely charged with, killing. But allow me to back up and elaborate on the real story. Back in 1975, a forestry worker named, Travis Walton, was working in the area of Snowflake, Arizona, when a saucer-shaped craft with a high-pitched buzz entered their field of vision. Quick sidebar, the irony of a place in a hot state like Arizona being called Snowflake is hilarious to me. So Walton says that after he left the truck and approached the object, a beam of light suddenly appeared from the craft and knocked him unconscious. The other 6 men on the project were supposedly frightened and drove away. Walton says that he awoke in a hospital-like room being observed by 3 short, bald creatures. He says that he fought with them until a human wearing a helmet led him to another room, where he blacked out as 3 other humans put a clear plastic mask over his face. Now Walton has said that he remembers nothing else until he found himself walking along a highway 5 days later with the flying saucer departing above him. So on that same day, he appeared in town in a phone booth, surprising his employees who had fled, believing him to be dead. He alleges that extraterrestrials abducted him and examined him in that space that resembled that hospital. In the days following his UFO claim, the National Enquirer awarded Walton and his co-workers a $5,000 prize for Best UFO Case of the Year, after they were said to have passed polygraph tests administered by the Enquirer and the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, or APRO for short. You know how much I like my short forms. Walton, his older brother, and his mother were described by the Navajo County, Arizona sheriff as longtime students of UFOs. According to experts, all of the co-workers who weren't there, who saw the spacecraft, all took polygraph tests and all passed, except for one that was inconclusive. Which, you know what happens. It's a good ratio though. So in 1978, Walton wrote his book, with the same title as the movie, detailing his claims, which became the basis for Fire in the Sky. Paramount Pictures decided that his account was too fuzzy and too similar to other televised close encounters, so they ordered a screenwriter to write a flashier, more provocative abduction story. Fire in the Sky grossed $19.9 million domestically on a $15 million budget and received mixed reviews. It was nominated though for 4 Saturn Awards, so that's pretty cool. Nevertheless, its alien abduction scenes are considered by many to be highly effective. In 2017, Pace named Fire in the Sky as one of the 25 best science fiction films on Netflix. I know what I'm watching tonight. Number 4, Hangar 10. So the Rendlesham UFO incident, which was released in the US as Hangar 10, is a 2014 found footage style British horror film directed by Daniel Simpson. It stars Danny Shaler, Abby Salt, and Robert Curtis as 3 friends who become lost in the Rendlesham forest and discover evidence of UFO activity decades after the original incident. It premiered at the Colchester Film Festival on the 22nd of October in 2014 and was released in the UK on February 9th of 2015. But before we get to the movie stuff, let's talk about the real story. So the Rendlesham Forest incident was a series of reported sightings of unexplained lights near the forest in Suffolk, England in December of 1980, which became linked with UFO landings. Now these events occurred just outside RAF Woodbridge, which was used at the time by the United States Air Force, or USAF for short. USAF personnel, including Deputy Base Commander Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, claimed to see things they described as UFOs. The occurrence is the most famous of UFO events to have ever happened in the United Kingdom and is among the best known reported UFO events worldwide, sometimes called Britain's Roswell. The UK Ministry of Defence has stated that the event posed no threat to national security, so it was never investigated as a security matter. But what do they know that we don't? At around 3 a.m. on December 26 of 1980, good old Boxing Day, a security patrol near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge saw lights apparently descending into the forest and initially thought it was a downed aircraft. According to a memo, upon entering the forest to investigate, the servicemen witnessed a glowing object that was metallic in appearance with, colored lights. As they attempted to approach the object, it appeared to move through the trees, and the animals on a nearby farm went into quite the frenzy. One of the servicemen, Sergeant Jim Peniston, later claimed to have encountered a craft of unknown origin while in the forest, but never elaborated on the details. Shortly after 4, the local police were called to the scene, but reported that the only lights they could see were those from the Orford Ness Lighthouse, many miles away on the coast. After daybreak on that same morning, servicemen returned to a small clearing near the eastern edge of the forest and found 3 small impressions on the ground in a triangular pattern pattern, as well as burn marks and broken branches on nearby trees. At 10:30, the local police were called out yet again, this time to see the impressions, which, they originally thought could have been made by an animal. Not any animal I know. The deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt, the one I mentioned before, visited the site with several servicemen in the early hours, taking radiation readings in the Triangle of Depressions and in the surrounding area using an AN-PDR-27, which is apparently a standard US military radiation survey meter. Although they recorded 0.07 milliroentgens per hour, in other regions they detected 0.03 to 0.04, and which is around the background level. I'm not saying that word again. Furthermore, they detected a similar small burst for half a mile away from the landing site. It was during this investigation that a flashing light was seen across a field to the east, almost in line with a farmhouse, as the witnesses had seen on the first night. Later, according to Holt's memo, 3 star-like lights were seen in the sky, 2 to the north and 1 to the south. Later, according to Holt's memo, 3 star-like lights were seen in the sky, 2 to the north and 1 to the south, about 10 degrees above the horizon. He said that the brightest of these hovered for 2 to 3 hours and seemed to beam down a stream of light from time to time. So, let's get to the movie version. 33 years after the incident, 3 metal detector enthusiasts hunting for sacks and gold in the same region capture incredible footage of UFOs while filming their expedition. In classic horror movie tropes, their UFO detecting equipment fails, and they meet some pretty scary UFOs. The movie isn't well rated, but I never promised Hollywood blockbusters. Now did I? Number 3, Phoenix Forgotten. So this is a 2017 American found footage science fiction horror film directed by Justin Barber in his directorial debut, and written by Barber and T.S. Nowlin. The film was also produced by Nowlin alongside Ridley Scott, Wes Ball, Courtney Solomon, and Mark Canton. Originally advertised as Phoenix, the film tells the story of the disappearance of 3 teenagers who set out to find the source of the widely reported 1997 UFO phenomenon known as the Phoenix Lights. It was released on April 21st of 2017 to some negative reviews, with many critics unfavorably comparing it to the Blair Witch Project. So, what really happened in real life? On March 13th of 1997, at 7:55 p.m. MST, a witness in Henderson, Nevada, reported seeing a large, V-shaped object traveling southeast. At 8:15 p.m., an unidentified former police officer in Paulden, Arizona, reported seeing a cluster of reddish-orange lights disappear over the southern horizon. Shortly afterwards, there were reports of lights seen over the Prescott Valley in Arizona. Tim Lay and his wife Bobby, his son Hal, and his grandson Damien first saw the lights when they were about 105 kilometers away from them. At first, the lights appeared to them as 5 separate and distinct lights in like an arc shape, as if they were on top of a balloon, but they soon realized the lights appeared to be moving towards them. So over the next 10 or so minutes, the lights appeared to come closer. The distance between the lights increased, eventually taking on the shape of an upside-down V. Eventually, when the lights appeared to be a couple of miles away, families said that they could make out a shape that looked like a 60-degree carpenter's square. I'm not even gonna try with that one. With 5 lights set into it, with 1 at the front and 2 on each side. Soon the object with the embedded lights appeared to be moving towards them, at about 100 to 150 feet above them, traveling so slowly that it gave the appearance of a silent hovering object, which seemed to pass over their heads and went through a V opening in the peaks of the mountain range towards a nearby mountain and also towards the direction of the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. Between 8:30 and 8:45 p.m., witnesses in Glendale, which is northwest of Phoenix, saw the light formation pass overhead at an altitude high enough to become obscured by the thin clouds. Amateur astronomer Mitch Stanley in Scottsdale, Arizona, also observed the high altitude lights flying in formation through a telescope, and according to him, they were quite clearly individual airplanes. At approximately 10 p.m. that same evening, a large number of folks in the Phoenix area reported seeing a row of brilliant lights hovering in the sky, or slowly falling. A number of photos and videos were taken, prompting author Robert Schaefer to describe it as possibly the most widely witnessed UFO event in history. Number 2, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The movie depicts the tale of Roy Neary, played by Richard Dreyfuss, a common blue-collar worker from Indiana, whose life changes as a result of coming into contact with an alien craft. In another parallel story, the team follows a team of study experts with diverse backgrounds looking at the odd appearance of objects in remote places, mainly desert areas. So Close Encounters of the Third Kind genuinely draws inspiration from several different sources, including real people's encounters with UFOs, unlike the other movies on today's list that are based on a single event. Director Steven Spielberg hired Dr. J. Allen Hynek, a distinguished astronomer who created the UFO classification system from which the movie gets its name, to accurately portray the UFO sightings. So Hynek acted as scientific advisor to UFO studies undertaken by the US Air Force under 3 projects: Project Sign, Project Grudge, and the very well-known Project Blue Book. If you don't know it, I recommend looking it up, it's fascinating. So its classification for UFO sightings, according to increasing proximity, starts with nocturnal lights, which is pretty straightforward, simply lights in the night sky, and then it escalates to daylight discs, which are UFOs seen in the daytime and generally have disc or oval shapes. Next up, we've got radar visual. These are the UFO reports that have radar confirmation, offering harder evidence that the objects are real. Although I have to admit that radar propagation can be occasionally discredited due to atmospheric propagation anomalies. Now for the fun stuff. Close encounters of the first kind, which are visual sightings of an unidentified flying object seemingly less than 500 feet away that show an appreciable angular extension and considerable detail. This is followed by close encounters of the second kind, a UFO event in which a physical effect is alleged. This can be interference in the functioning of a vehicle or electronic device, animals reacting, a physiological effect such as paralysis or heat and discomfort in the witness, or some physical trace like impressions in the ground, scorched or otherwise affected vegetation, or a chemical trace. Finally, we have close encounters of the third kind, which are UFO encounters in which an animated entity is present. These include humanoids, robots, and humans who seem to be occupants or pilots of a UFO. Number 1. Battle Los Angeles. This movie tells the story of a global extraterrestrial invasion as witnessed by a Marine platoon attempting to defend Los Angeles. So the battalion has to fight its way out of the city as it is being looted by aliens because things don't go as planned by either party. The film story was partially inspired by the Battle of Los Angeles, which was a rumored enemy attack and subsequent anti-aircraft artillery barrage that took place in, LA during World War II on the night of February 24th of 1942. The incident occurred a day after the bombardment of Elwood, when an Imperial Japanese submarine launched shells at US aviation fuel tanks. West Coast tensions were already running high in the months after the December 1941 Pearl Harbor attack and entry of the US into the Second World War. Eyewitnesses and radar data reported an unknown aerial craft over the LA area on February 24th, leading to fears of a Japanese attack on the US mainland. But a review of the incident found no proof of Japanese presence in the area and attributed the incident to aliens. This very real incident was used as the main focus of an early teaser trailer to promote the film, in which it strongly implied that the alien invaders spent decades planning their attack and invasion. The filmmakers drew upon this historical event in an attempt to help ground the film in reality and to make it, as scary as possible. And that brings us to the end of our list, and hey, is anyone else in the mood for an alien movie marathon? Yeah, as usual, just me, eh? Well, if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.